Welcome, friends, welcome everyone, welcome one and all to my YouTube channel, to the last video of the series of 3 videos of my trilogy on the critical analysis of the essay The Problem of Evil, written by Rabindranath Tagore. In my previous video, I have discussed in detail how the problem of evil is a problem of immense proportions and how it is touching the various aspects of our life at different levels of intensity at different stages of our life in our journey from evil to good. I have also discussed how the problem of evil is changing its colors like a chameleon to enter into the soul of man, the soul of the ignorant soul, the unaware soul. Someone has aptly said that ignorance is the root and stem of evil. So, this logical warfare, this logical battle between the good and evil, is a perennial, perpetual warfare. But the point is, but the question is whether this perpetual warfare will continue forever, and will it not come to an end. Now, this until now we have seen these evil and good as two antithetical, warring and opposing forces constantly at loggerheads with each other, constantly fighting with each other. Now, this is a paradox being put forth by the Rabindranath Tagore, paradoxical proposition put forth by Rabindranath Tagore. But does he bring about a harmonious synthesis of these two warring factions, but through his logical philosophy, through his poetic philosophy, and through his poetic device? The answer is yes, he has done it. He has brought about this unification or and of these antithetical forces through his poetic vision. We will discuss in detail about this unification of the opposite and warring forces, how it has been brought about and how it has been uh, balanced by the philosophy of consolation, the poetic philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore. Now, this logical conflict between the good and evil is posing a serious threat to the very existence of God, of divinity on this earth. It also poses a serious threat and serious impediments to our progress from evil to good, to our journey from earthly finite life to the life of infinity. It also poses a serious threat to our search for greater good for mankind, for the happiness, in our search for the happiness for all, and also it also poses an impediment to the service for mankind. So, all these warring horses reminds us a very important sentence of this essay. It recalls loud and clear in our ears. But everything that is special must keep up a perpetual fight, must put up a perpetual fight with what is general. So, it is well known that goodness is very special, and therefore it must put up a perpetual fight, a perennial fight, a continuous fight with its opposite, which is general, that is evil. Now, the question is, how has evil come into existence on this earth, in this creation? Whether it existed before the advent of man on this earth, or it came with the man with the birth of the man on this earth, and the seeds of both good and evil are sown in the man since his birth? Or is it because of the fight of or through the journey of the man from this earthly life, he gets infected with evil through the interplay of various human forces? That means evil is the infection caused by whether evil is the infection caused by the interplay of human forces on this earth. Now, to this question, this is a question we got answer from various philosophers, poets, and dramatists. We will take into consideration one by one how these antithetical forces have been, philosophically brought to a logical synthesis, harmonious synthesis, how these opposite twins meet into a harmonious whole. That is all about this discussion. Now, in Indian philosophy, there are various schools of thought who has delved deep on this subject of evil. One school of thought tells us that the main cause of evil is our karma. As we sow, so we reap. Is a very simple is a simple in very simple terms can explain. And karma is our actions and deeds on this earth, in this earthly life, during our journey from birth to death. So this school of thought believes that we can get rid of the evil, the problem of evil, by getting rid from the cycle of the birth and death, or life and death. And in this way, our soul will get liberated from the evil. There is another school of thought which tells us that life on this earth or this samsara is a maya. This samsara is a maya. Maya means illusion, mirage, hallucination. According to that school of thought, we have to experience this maya, and only by the dint of this experience, only by the virtue of this experience, can we tackle this problem of evil and cross it over in our journey of this earthly life. Okay. Now, in several anthologies of Rabindranath Tagore, we will find that Rabindranath, in his poetic vision, has seen two gods playing the game of chess with each other, one being good, kind, and benign, and the other being unkind, destructive, and cruel, just like the concept of Shiva and Vishnu in Hindu religion, in Hinduism. So, as I have told you, that the problem of evil is Maya. Maya means illusion, and illusion can never be permanent. It is temporary. Its very essence is impermanence, transience, and temporariness. So, evil must transform itself into good in this journey, in our journey on this earth. That is the poetic philosophy of most of the poets, of most of the poets and dramatists, because otherwise the viewers will not have the catharsis. For the catharsis, it is very much required for the ultimate restoration of good over evil, the ultimate triumph of good over evil. Now, good can exist without evil, but evil cannot exist without good. This is a very important concept. because a shadow is not permanent, but the object is permanent. So evil is the shadow, and the object is the human being. And truth, the object is the truth, and the shadow is the evil. So good is truth, evil is false. And so truth will definitely triumph in its journey from the finite being to the infinite being. Okay, so it is very important to realize this aspect, this unification. Now we are coming about to the point of unification of good and evil. Now good, there's one theory which says that uh, the problem of evil takes root as a seed in our soul when we take birth on this earth. Okay, it comes into us from our very birth. And this philosophy that we are born with the seeds of evil and good in us brings about the unification of this opposite warring we are born with the seeds in us, and that is how the opposite twins are brought to a logical philosophical conclusion. And we have to strike a balance by getting rid of the evil advances and moving towards the light. This is a matter of experience, this is a matter of knowledge. Ignorance is the root and stem of evil. Ignorance is the root and stem of evil, because if we are ignorant, we will be mystified in our vision. We will not have the clarity of thought, and if there is no clarity of thought, we will work in opposite directions, and this will bring about chaos, confusion in the earth. Now the question is individual. Now the question is how is it that we are going with both the strains in us. Actually, this is a concept we will understand if I'm gonna move over to the concept that I discussed earlier. A man is always engrossed in the pursuit of present. Man is always engrossed in the present, detached from the past and the future. And with this myopic sight, losing sight of the complete timeline of his life, this myopic field of vision and thought makes us susceptible to evil, and we are likely to fall in the trap of evil, for we then lose the power, the acumen of questioning our actions, our deeds, and also the actions of others. This is something like the virus of evil, seizes the power of questioning for the time being. And what happens? We get confused. When the psychic self of the human being gets confused, it transmits opposing, confusing signals to the mental plane of the human being. And when the mental plane of the human being does not find clarity from the psychic being, it also gives confusing signals to the vital being. And the vital being is the seat of Our vital being is the seat of desire, of all desires, and when the seat of desire gets confusing signals from its master, that is the mental plane, it gives confusing signals, opposite and different signals to its different organs, which gets engrossed in seeking pleasure for the temporary satisfaction of that particular organ. This makes this brings or this divides the soul into different halves. This is called split personality. And when these organs arc in opposite directions, it creates a frictional forces, opposing forces, which brings about uh, 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 chaos, confusion in the whole system, and we become a disturbed soul, a defeated soul, defeated from the purpose of the universal will, the will with which we have been sent to. Okay, so we are divided in the split personality is a concept in which a person once a self is divided into, split into two halves. One half is the epitome of light, epitome of bliss, or ananda, which is always in the state of bliss, conditionless bliss, because of its knowledge of the universal will, of the unification of his earthly life, the life of finiteness, with the life of infinity. And the other half is the lesser self, which is always engrossed in the worldly life of pleasure and pain, life and death, or seen and unseen, loss and success and failure, love and hatred, poverty and prosperity. All these earthly forces engrosses that self into, you know into into its existence, and it never aspires to go out of this cycle to some another cycle, that is the cycle of bliss and joy. And joy, how do you get reach joy? How do you get joy in life? Joy is achieved not by the satisfaction of the, you know sense organs. A joy is or bliss is achieved by the knowledge of Brahmananda. Brahmananda, Brahmanandam, Param Sukhadam. We can say Anandam Sukhadam, Sukhadam Anandam. That means this knowledge of the universal will, when this knowledge, we transmute our earthly life as a journey from the finite plane to the plane of infinity, we tend to realize that we are sent on this earth with some purpose, and that purpose is solved only when we move in the path of light. This is also the teaching of Buddha. When Buddha also said, when the individual will is merged in the universal will, the man is freed from the thraldom of pain. Okay, bliss or ananda is the nectar which comes from joy. It cannot come from the sight of beauty, from the possession of expensive things, from sex, from seeking pleasure, from worldly pursuits. It can touch our soul only when we realize that the pain and suffering is the other side of joy. Human soul seeks to rise from the finite to infinity. Yeah. Now I will now this concept of the problem of evil has not only been dealt with by Rabindranath Tagore alone. Many other poets dramatists all over the world in various languages have touched upon this problem. And I especially remember William Shakespeare on this subject, because most of his tragedies, the four of, or in fact all the four tragedies, Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, and Othello, brings before us the the intense fight between these two warring forces, the forces of good and evil, both externally and inside the characters of the protagonists of the plays. Okay, supposing Macbeth, now in the Shakespearean tragedy, every protagonist or the main character of the play suffers from a flaw in his character, which is also known as hamartia or hubris. These hubris ultimately brings about his doom, and somewhat the doom of the protagonist is brought about this flaw in the character. Now, what is this flaw? This flaw ranges from overconfidence, snobbery of snobbery, ignorance, jealousy, love, hatred, uh, pride in blue blood, okay, pride in possession. Then it's because of jealousy of romance, jealousy, hatred, ignorance, overconfidence, low self-esteem, etc. and etc. Now, what brought Hamlet? What was the hubris of Hamlet? Hubris suffered from the inability to act timely. Because of his inability to act timely and take the revenge of the murder of his father, he could not. He failed. He failed and ultimately lost the battle. Similarly, Macbeth was overconfident on the prophecies of the witches. Now, fair is foul, foul is fair, hovers through the fog and filthy air. Now, these are the opening lines of perhaps the 12th or 13th lines of the Act 1, Scene 1, opening scene of the play Macbeth, in which the characters, the witches, the agents of the evil are singing this in chorus. What does it imply? Now, fair, evil, we can say good is evil, evil is good. What is this? This is the interplay of facts, reality, and fiction, or apparition, or appearance. Now, what appears to be fair initially may not actually be fair, it may be foul. And what appears to be foul at the beginning may not be foul, it may be just the opposite of foul, which is fair. So, you can see fair is foul, foul is fair, fog hovers through the fog and filthy air. What is fog? Fog is the natural agent of mysticism, of obscurity, and whereas filthy is not natural. Anything which is filthy is being made filthy by the human activity, the human karma. So the fog and filth are the things which obscures our reasoning, which obscures our clarity of vision, obscures our clarity of thought. When our psychic self gets obscured, by into different directions, different signals, it percolates confusing signals to the mental self, and when the mental self cannot think clearly, it also sends confusing signals to the vital self. The vital self then sends confusing signals to the organs or the physical self. This creates the stress and strain in the soul, and it gets hurt bruised. Now we will take some few lines from, we will quote some few lines, we will quote a few lines from Macbeth, which will clear the concept, which will give more light on this concept. Now, Lady Macbeth was the tormented soul in this play because he committed an evil act of killing, uh, a man in his sleep. This sight, the sight of blood, never, you know, she can never get rid of this sight of blood from her hands. And we, in her soliloquies, we will find the fight which is going her soul, under her soul, content continuously, continuously, till she is, you know, till she is, till she gets rid of it. How? There is a scene in which she says, here is the smell of the blood. No perfumes of Arabia can sweeten these little hands. What is this? This is the knowledge of doing the evil act. This is the realization of the misdeed. Again she says, out, damn spot, out, I say. But again in the very next moment she says, but screw your courage to the sticking place and we will not fail. Okay? Stick your courage to the sticking place and we will not fail. Fail. What need we fear? Who knows it when none call our power to account? Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? This is again what this is. First one is realization. Out, damn spot, out, I say. No perfumes of Arabia can sweeten these little hands being besmeared with the blood of the innocent, of the man she had killed. Now, why again she is saying, screw your courage to the sticking place? That means courage is not only required to do good acts, courage is also required to do evil acts. And courage, then what in the next moment she is saying that we have the authority, and who will question our authority? That these are the logical envelopes, these are the reasoning envelopes, covers that we put on the evil ideas to further our evil, ourselves from the forces of light, to go into the realm of darkness. This is the way the evil works in its laboratory of our inner self, and we get momentarily blinded. Our power of questioning and reasoning is seized temporarily, and in that moment when we take action, we are bound to be the agent of Satan or evil. This is how Shakespearean drama brings about a vivid fight between the good and the evil. We see before ourselves the forces fighting with each other, for forces fighting against each other. That is really interesting. Again, the doctor who was treating Lady Macbeth says, foul whisperings are abroad, unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles, infected minds to their deaf pillows will discharge their secrets. More needs she the divine than the physician. God, forgive us all, look after her. This is a very important quotation because it tells how the tormented soul of evil is not cured by the by the physical medicines. It can only be cured by the light of divinity, by the light of God. It cannot be cured by physical medicines. And because that tormented soul needs to realize her existence, the reason of her existence on this earth. Lady Macbeth does not need the physical medicines, and his ailment cannot be cured by physical medicines. She can be cured only by the grace of God. Another thing she says is that another thing that the doctor says is that unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. Again, the theory of karma: good deeds bring good results, and bad deeds bring bad results. As you sow, so you reap. So this is a very old concept. Now, Macbeth, in one of his soliloquies, he says, "Time thou anticipated my deed exploits. Thy flighty purpose is never overlooked, unless the deed go with it. For the moment, the very firstlings of my heart shall be the firstlings of my soul. And even now, to crown my thoughts with acts, be it thought and done." That means timely action and timely the timing between the thought and its creation must be must not be delayed, because that delay creates wavering, ambiguity, and when wavering and ambiguity sets in, it becomes the field of evil, and the real purpose gets vanished in due course. So when we must act soon on our thoughts, on our and our deeds must fructify our thoughts. This problem of evil has also been taken up by other poets as well, like the T.S. Eliot, when he says, "The world turns, the world changes, but one thing does not change. In all my years, one thing does not change. However you disguise it, this thing does not change. The perpetual struggle of good and evil." Again, he says, "Most evil in the world is done by people with good intentions." So, most evil is done by the people with good intentions. And there is another saying which says that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is the inaction of all the good men. So, we must act. We must act, because inaction and static self becomes the agent of evil. And Macbeth, I again when I go to the site of Lady Macbeth shouting in the darkness of the night with herself, loneliness, because she felt loneliness, she felt lonely, she could not find any support, any confidence from outside world. Therefore, she was rattled inside. Now, loneliness is a vice. Loneliness is a vice. Loneliness sets in evil. Loneliness is the poverty of self, whereas solitude is the richness of self. Loneliness expresses the suffering, the sadness of being alone, and solitude expresses the glory, the joy of being alone. So we should never feel lonely. We should always try to find peace and tranquility when you are alone with yourself. this is another aspect of evil. Okay, evil has various aspects, and we have to understand and see it very clearly in order to make ourselves aware of its traps, of its hidden traps, so that we don't fall. Now, Rabindranath Tagore, in many of his poetries, have projected this evil and good not as contradictory forces but as complementary to each other, and completing the cycle of the life on this earth into into a synthetic, harmonious whole. He sees that imperfections or evil are necessary for the existence of perfection. You cannot find a mountain without a valley, or sky without clouds, darkness without light. But in his works, it is amply clear that he believes in the ultimate restoration of peace and tranquility after the turmoil is over. So does Shakespeare. Shakespeare also believed in the, you know, restoration of tranquility and peace after all the turmoil is over. Okay, that is how we have to see evil. Evil is essential part of our lives, but evil is not the ultimate. Evil is not the reality. Evil is not the real. All, all is a process of growth, journey from evil to good. The whole journey is the process of growth, journey from evil to good, good to evil. The process of life is just like the dance of Nataraj. The dance is performed in two steps. In every step, man has to take into account of the others. These rhythmic movements of Nataraj symbolizes the, you know, interplay of good and evil in our soul, in our body. Pleasure or suffering, life or death, good or bad, is just the forward and backward steps of the dancing Lord Shiva. He says that one who does not face or bear suffering does not get all that are suggested, that we are supposed to get from this earthly life, that we are supposed to get from this earthly life. So this is how the unification of good and evil has been, ultimately been thought of and brought about by the works of Rabindranath Tagore and various other poets. Aristotle too said in his Poetics that there are three stages of development of every poetic device. What are they? They are hamartia, anagnorisis, and peripeteia. Now, what is that? Hamartia means flaw means evil, imperfection. Then anagnorisis, that is realization, and the ultimately peripeteia. Peripeteia means the reversal of fortune. Definitely, we get in our life, in our earthly life, we don't, we won't like the reversal of fortune. So and ultimately we have to merge our personal will, our will, with the universal will, and accept the turn of events that unfolds before us. This acceptance of universal will dilutes the opposing forces that takes birth and tries to rise in us, and which ultimately brings peace, tranquility, and satisfaction, irrespective of our earthly achievements like success, money, marriage, and other worldly factors. So with this concluding lines, I would like to conclude this critical appreciation. Friends, I hope you must have liked it, and please, if you have liked, do like and share the video, and also give your valuable comments. I would like to continue this journey. I would like to post interesting discussions, interesting academic videos on various topics of literature, language, and also other subjects relevant to the young aspiring youth who wants to touch the goal. Thank you very much.